All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. So today we're going to be talking about something pretty wild. Uh, it has to do with vitamin D. Vitamin D, it's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, take it for your bones. Make
Right.
sure you get enough sunlight.
Yes.
But it turns out it could be way more important than we thought, or particularly when it comes to um, autoimmune conditions. And so
Yeah.
we're looking at this study that came out fairly recently, actually, and we're going to take a deep dive into it
Yeah.
because it's really fascinating. And a lot of people struggle with autoimmune conditions these days.
Right.
And this could be a really important piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely.
So I'm really excited to get into this.
Yeah.
So I guess the first thing is like this study kind of blew my mind because it was talking about
Yeah.
how vitamin D deficiency could actually lead to a higher risk of these autoimmune conditions. And it all comes down to this little organ called the thymus.
Yeah.
And so I guess like for people who don't know what the thymus is, can you kind of explain what it is and why it's important?
Yeah. So the thymus is it's kind of a lesser known organ. It's kind of right on top of your heart. And it's actually only active during childhood and adolescence, really up until about the age of 20, and then it starts to shrink. But what the thymus does is it's essentially the training ground for the immune system. So if you think about your T cells, like the soldiers of your immune system, they're the ones going around fighting off invaders like bacteria and viruses. Well, those T cells, they actually have to learn how to do their job properly. And they do that in the thymus.
Interesting.
So the thymus is like this boot camp where the T cells go to learn how to distinguish between friend and foe. So they learn how to recognize your body's own cells as friendly and not attack them.
Okay.
And then they learn how to recognize foreign invaders like pathogens and attack those.
So it's pretty important.
Yeah. I mean, if your immune system doesn't know the difference between self and non-self,
Yeah.
then you start getting these autoimmune conditions where your body is basically attacking itself.
Right, because it can't tell the good guys from the bad guys.
Exactly. It's like friendly fire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not good.
Okay, so then how does vitamin D fit into all this?
All right, so this is where it gets really interesting. The study found that mice who were deficient in vitamin D developed smaller and weaker thymuses.
So, like physically smaller.
Yeah, physically smaller. They also had fewer cells in the thymus, which means there were fewer T cells being trained. And importantly, they had lower levels of this crucial protein called AIR, which stands for autoimmune regulator.
Okay, an autoimmune regulator, so that sounds important.
It is super important. AIR basically acts as a safety switch to prevent the immune system from going haywire and attacking your own tissues. So if you have low levels of AIR, it's like your immune system is missing this crucial safety mechanism.
Also, vitamin D deficiency leads to lower levels of air.
Exactly. And that's what makes this study so groundbreaking. It shows a direct link between vitamin D and the development of autoimmune diseases.
Wow. So it sounds like this has huge implications for kids, especially
Absolutely.
because you said that the thymus is most active during childhood and adolescence.
Right.
So if they're not getting enough vitamin D during those crucial years,
Yeah.
it could really mess with their immune system development.
Yeah, it's like sending a soldier into battle without proper training. They're not going to be equipped to handle the threats they encounter.
And this could be a reason why we're seeing more and more autoimmune diseases these days.
It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. We spend more time indoors. We wear sunscreen more often, which is good for protecting our skin from sun damage.
Right.
But it also blocks vitamin D production. So it wouldn't be surprising if vitamin D deficiency is playing a role in this rise in autoimmune conditions.
Okay, so I know this study was done on mice, but what does this mean for us humans?
Well, the good news is that mouse and human thymuses function very similarly. So it's highly likely that these findings apply to us as well.
That's it.
Yeah. And actually, researchers are already planning to study the effects of vitamin D on the human thymus directly.
Oh, wow. So we might actually have some answers soon.
Hopefully.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, it's promising. Because if we can confirm this link in humans, it opens up so many possibilities for prevention and treatment. Imagine if we could prevent autoimmune diseases just by ensuring adequate vitamin D intake during childhood.
Yeah, that would be incredible.
It would be huge.
So what are the best ways to make sure we're getting enough vitamin D, especially for our kids?
So sunlight is a great natural source.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of things to keep in mind. First of all, the amount of sunlight you need varies depending on your skin tone, where you live, and the time of year. So if you live in a place with limited sunlight during certain months, you might not be getting enough from the sun alone.
Right.
Second, you have to be careful about sun exposure. Too much sun can increase your risk of skin cancer. So it's all about finding that balance.
That makes sense.
Now, if you're not getting enough vitamin D from sunlight, then supplements can be a good option. There are two main types of vitamin D supplements, vitamin D2 and D3. D3 is generally considered to be more effective at raising vitamin D levels in your body.
Okay, so make sure you're getting the right kind.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important to talk to your doctor, especially about your children's vitamin D intake. They can assess individual needs and recommend the right amount.
Yeah, that's really important because you don't want to overdo it either.
Exactly. Too much vitamin D can be harmful. So it's always best to consult with your doctor to make sure you're getting the right dosage.
All right, so I guess the takeaway here is that vitamin D could be way more important than we thought, especially when it comes to preventing autoimmune diseases.
Absolutely.
And this study just sheds light on a whole new dimension of vitamin D's role in our health.
I agree.
So it's definitely something to be mindful of, especially if you have kids or if you're planning on having kids. Making sure they get enough vitamin D could have a lifelong impact on their health.
Yeah, it's an investment in their future well-being. And even for adults who might be concerned about their own vitamin D levels, it's worth talking to your doctor.
Yeah, just to get checked out.
Right.
It's better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that's a really good place to wrap up. But before we go, I want to leave you with a thought. We talked about how this study focused on prevention. But imagine the possibilities for future treatments. If vitamin D can play a role in preventing autoimmune diseases, could it also be used to treat them?
That's the big question.
Yeah, what if boosting vitamin D levels could actually help to reverse or even cure these conditions?
That would be a game changer.
It would be a medical breakthrough.
For sure.
So that's something to think about and definitely something I'm going to be following closely.
Me too. This is a really exciting area of research.
All right, well, thanks for joining me for another deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
It was great having you on the show, and to all our listeners out there, thanks for listening. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.